Alright, so number 26 was 88, 22. Alright, so this is pretty much the same thing as the truck problem we looked at before on the quiz before we left. So all it tells you is that it's going to be an oval room. You know that it is 88 feet long and 22 feet high. Well, you get to pick wherever you want to put this ellipse. So where's the smart place to put it?
Are you streaming?
It should be coming up, yeah. Just refresh the page.
Okay.
By that I mean, where do you want to put the ellipse? Typically, we graph ellipses, we put them on the Cartesian coordinate plane, you know, the x-y axes, to help us out and find things. So where would you put the ellipse if you got to choose?
You would make the dotted line the x-axis.
Okay, what else?
You would have
The
it
center.
be perfectly centered on the y-axis.
Okay, and were you about to say, Maddox? I think you're going to say it a different way.
I was going to say what he said, but the vertex is on the y-axis.
There you go. So same thing, but not just on the y-axis. We want the vertex to be, or the center, not the vertex. Careful. The center would be better to have it at 0, 0. So then we know this point here is 44, 0. This is negative 44, 0. And then this is 0, 22. So that would be by far the easiest thing to do, is to put it on the xy axis and put it centered at 0, 0. Because then you can figure out things that's familiar at that point. Do you have to do it this way? No. But for most of you, this will be the easiest way to do it by far. Well, that y-axis is a little off, but whatever. So they want to know where to put the focus, basically. So we're trying to find those points. Well, with the given information, can we find those points? Okay, so the question then is, how do we find the foci? What information do we need?
C.
We need our C value, correct. Good job, Mr. Priest and Abby. How do we find C?
A squared minus b squared.
Okay, so in this
Wouldn't
case,
it be 22? No, that's
no.
B.
So in our case, we will be doing a squared minus b squared because our major axis is the x-axis, so a will be bigger, and our minor will be y. So the question is, can we find, or do we have, our a and b values?
What problem is this in the book?
26 on page 169.
Okay.
So do we either have or can we find our a and b values?
Yes.
And what would they be then?
A is the long one, right?
I know A is 44, right?
Okay, correct. Remember, a in our case, or actually in all cases, is the distance from the center to the farthest point on the x. So that would be 44. So 44 squared. What is our b value?
22.
So very good, both of you. That's terrible.
Hey, I said that. You said I was wrong.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why I put that one. Equals 2 squared. So, and then you put that in your calculator and solve. So we pull mine up real quick. So 44 times 44. And take the square root. I get like a 38 number. So 38.1 feet away from the center. Let's see, what did they say? Or they leave it as a square root. 26 So they gave you both. They gave you the rounded and the exact. So yeah, about 38.1 feet. Does that make sense, Brandon? Did you ask the question?
What was that? I had my headset off.
I asked if that made sense since you were the one who asked the question. Just
Oh
wanna make
yeah.
sure. Okay.
Wait, so that's the answer?
So, because the question specifically is how far away from the center do you want to place it? And that is the same thing as the C value. So once we find the C value, that is how far away from the center. So that is the same thing as the answer in this case.
Okay.
Okay, so C is the. What is C?
The distance from the center to the foci on an
Foci.
ellipse.
Okay. Okay.
So on the stream, that's the point in between the center and the 44s. Like,
Correct. Those are
okay.
for the foci, yes, ma'am. Okay. Any other questions that anybody wants me to answer from number or section 16? Okay. 17.
So the center for all four of these types of things are HK.
They're not all called centers, but yes.
Okay.
Okay. Transverse and conjugate
Uh-huh. Remember, transverse
axis.
is your major axis, basically, on a hyperbola,
Um.
and your conjugate is your minor. Now, we have to remember and be careful. The transverse and conjugate axes, the lengths of them do not determine anything. The transverse goes from vertex to vertex on the hyperbola, and the conjugate axis does the opposite of that. So it would be perpendicular to the transverse axis. So, for instance, if your parabola or hyperbola opens left and right, your transverse axis would be your x-axis, the horizontal one, and your conjugate axis would be your vertical one, the one with the y, and then vice versa for the other ones.
Okay.
And transverse will always be, like I said, your major, so it always goes with your positive variable, and your conjugate axis will always go with your negative variable. That's also a way to think about it and see it as well.
Okay. What about number 25 in section 17? That one looks weird.
Because you mean it's a word problem?
Yeah.
People have got to get over your fear of word problems.
Then we should do them in class.
Yes, they
I
look
have
weird.
no problem doing them with you, but I'm saying you've got to get over your fear of them and do them because you guys can do them. They're not hard. They're not any harder than any of the other questions. It's just
It's
asked
just
in a different way.
different.
And it's
Yes.
weird.
Last time we asked you to do them in class, you refused because you said they were the same thing.
They are the same thing. And we didn't have time in class before. Yeah, it's perfectly fine to use square roots instead of decimals, Abby. Okay, so I just want you to write the equation in standard form and determine the eccentricity. So that's almost in standard form for us. So how do we get that equation into standard form on number 25? I guess most people aren't looking at it already on the board. Hold on. 196y squared.
Divide by 19,600.
Yeah. So
Oh.
196y squared minus, was it 100 x squared equals 19,600. So that's the equation they gave you. They want you to write it in standard form. So make the right hand side equal 1. So we get equals 1. This side is y squared over 100. And this will be x squared over 196.
What question was this? I zoned out.
25 on 17. Okay, so there's your equation in standard form. Okay, and then it wants to know the eccentricity. So how do we find the eccentricity of a hyperbola?
Isn't it C over A or C over B?
It is, but we got to know which one to use.
I know. That was what I was going to ask.
Oh, okay.
Do you have to figure out like which way it's going?
Correct. Actually, I mean, technically no, but yes, you should. Why do you say C over B, Miss Abby? Because I have a sinking suspicion I know why. That is correct. Good job. So we will use B in this case because it is y is positive. So on a hyperbola, to find your eccentricity, you will always use the positive one. On an ellipse, you will always use the bigger one. That's the difference between the two. So to find eccentricity for a hyperbola, you will always use the first value, the positive one. So in this case, our B value will be 10. So for our eccentricity, it will be C, which we have to find over 10. So we do need to find our C value. So how do I find the C value? Don't make me start calling on people.
Is it a squared plus b squared?
That is a good job.
Like,
So for hyperbolas, remember it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So you get 100 plus 196 equals c squared. So 296 equals c squared. I don't think that works out nicely. Let me find it. So 296.
Wait, why is it a plus whenever?
Because it's a hyperbola. That's the formula you use.
So it's always a
Ellipses
plus.
yeah, ellipses are minus, hyperbolas are plus. So the
Okay.
C value is approximately 17.2. So your eccentricity is 1.72-ish. Okay, so far that should all make sense. That's pretty straightforward. Yes, hopefully. Okay, so then the question asked is how far are they at the closest point? So what is the closest point of two hyperbolas? Well, the center's not actually on either hyperbola.
The vertex?
The vertex, what do you mean by the vertex? Because there's, so, I don't understand maybe.
Wait, say the question again.
Yeah, can you say it again?
What is the closest point on the two hyperbolas? Like, where are they the closest together? That's what they're looking for.
The vertices.
So, there you go. That's what I was trying to get out of you, Brisa. So the vertices are the closest 2 points. So they're asking basically how far apart are the two vertices.
Oh.
So if you kind of draw it out, it doesn't really matter where the center is. So these will open up and down in our case. And we know that our B value is 10. So remember from each vertex to the center is 10. So the vertices will be 20 away from each other. So from one vertex to the center will be 10, and then from the center to the other vertex will be 10. So it is 20. They don't word it weirdly. They word it in such a way that it would be a normal question asked. How far apart are the buildings at the closest point? That's not a weird word. What you mean to ask is why don't they say how far apart are the vertices? And they do that to see if you understand what you're actually doing versus just memorizing. You're going to start figuring out as you get higher in math. A lot of it is not about memorizing. It's more about application and knowing what's going on. And that's going to be one of your hardest parts as you get to higher math. Okay. Any other questions in 17? Okay, 18.
What was the answer to the 25 again?
The final answer, how far apart are they, is 20. Each vertex to the center is a distance of 10, so it would be double that, which is a distance of 20. Or the length of the transverse axis. It's the same question. So the transverse
Can
axis in
you
this case would be
do
20.
can you do either 11, 12, or 14?
Pick which one you want me to do.
I don't know. Someone else say something.
14.
Okay. I don't understand how to write the equation without the vertices or like using just the asymptotes or the foci.
Okay, so the part there you gotta always remember is what information do they give you is what you gotta pick out. Remember, to write the equation, all you need are H, K, A, and B. Those are the only 4 pieces you need. So somehow, some way, the information they give you, you're going to be able to get all of those.
Yes, I just don't know how.
Okay, so ask yourself, why did they give me this? What does it pertain to? H, K, A, or B? I always start with the easy part. So if I'm doing 14, they tell me I have vertices at 0, plus or minus 4. So what is the fact that I have my vertices at 0, plus or minus 4? What does that tell me?
That they open up and down.
Okay, first thing is that it opens up and down, which tells me what?
That. Wait. Is the x positive?
So if it opens up and
Because
down, that means that y is positive. Abby says c equals 4. That would not be true because this is vertices, not foci. Gotta be careful. So this tells me though that so if I start drawing a sketch at least, so 0, 4. So I know it's got to look something like that because my vertices are at 0, 4 and 0, negative 4. Okay, so what else does it give me?
the asymptotes.
No, I'm saying what else does 0 plus or minus 4, because we're not done with that yet.
Oh.
That gives me a lot more information than that. What's right in the middle of the vertices?
Oh. That's H and K.
So it gives you your center. Directly in the middle of your vertices, no matter which problem you're dealing with, the hyperbolas or ellipses. So we know our center is at 0, 0. This, I remember as we talked about, also tells me y is the positive one. So as I go to start writing my equation now, I know it's going to look like this to begin with.
Y is Y positive.
Because it opens up and down.
So if it was left and right, then X would be positive.
Yes, ma'am. So as I start to write my equation, I can go ahead and write that out and just fill things in as I start to get it. I know it has to be something squared minus something squared, fractions, n equals 1. Well, if y is positive, that means I have y in the front. If I know my center is 0, 0, I can go ahead and, again, fill that in. And now I'm left with just finding my a and b value. Okay. So at this point, we could find actually a little more from the vertex. So knowing that the vertices are at 0, plus or minus 4 actually gives us one more piece of information.
The B value.
It gives us our b value. What is our b value, Brisa? Okay, that is correct on the second go around. So b is equal to 4. This is actually a very important thing I'm about to bring up because we could have made a very big possible mistake. In a second, you'll see why. So b is 4, so we can put a 16 underneath that. Now they
How
also,
do you know?
because remember b is the distance, is the vertical distance from your center to your vertex. If it's a upwards facing parabola, up and down.
Okay.
So just like before, b is always the up and down, a is always the left and right. So in this case, we just happen to know that it's 4 because of that. However, this brings me to a very good point you have to pay attention on. They tell us that the asymptotes are y is equal to plus or minus 2/3. So what's 2/3, right? Yes, 2/3 x. We also need to remember from before that it was equal to plus or minus b over a x minus h plus k, if I remember right. Pretty sure that's the correct form. It's been a while. But something's not matching up. If you look at the equation for your asymptotes, b is on top, but here this says 2. But we just found from our vertices that b was 4. What's going on? Why do they not match up? Very good, Miss Abby. That is correct. They simplified the fraction. So our asymptotes are actually 4/6 x, not 2/3.
So now you know A too.
Now we just figured out A. If we didn't find B using our vertices, which is a very easy and common mistake to happen, I almost made it myself. I almost said, oh, let's just go to the asymptotes, but then I realized something wasn't matching up. So you've got to be very careful and realize that they can simplify your fraction for A and B. So now we know that A is 6. So we get this is 36. So that is one that's not necessarily hard, but it definitely is very easy to make a small mistake on.
So how would you find A if they didn't simplify? Because we could just put in, like, we could set 2/3 equal to 4 and, like, we'll obviously multiply 3 times 2 to get 6, but what if
They would give
they
you,
didn't simplify?
so if they didn't simplify, we don't have to worry about it. We can just use those numbers. The thing here is you have to make sure that everything goes together and matches up.
Okay.
So, for instance, it might not have been 4/6. It could have been 6/9 as well. We don't know what it is before it was simplified. We just have to make sure all the information matches. And according to our vertices, that tells me that my b value is 4. So that's how I knew to make it 4/6 and not something else.
Okay.
So if they give you those asymptotes, always be on the lookout for if they've simplified. So I would suggest, I guess at this point, really looking at that part last and getting that information at the last possible second. Any other questions from 17? Excuse me. So I'm assuming you guys have, been working on the homeworks and quizzes.
You said B is always up and down, and A is always left and right.
Yeah, because B goes with Y and A goes with X.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on 17? $18.
Yes, let me find it. I know I had a question.
Wait, can we ask questions on the quiz?
No.
Okay. No.
I mean, if you find a similar one in the homework, it'd be a good idea.
How do you? So we go from number 11 and number 12. We go from the formula in number 12 to number 11. But how do we go back? Because it asked us to graph it. So
You're talking about on 18, right? Or 6?
yeah.
Okay. Um,
So to find the vertex and the focus and all of that, how
Mhm.
would you do that?
so find your H and K value for the vertex. Then find your P value to find your focus and your directrix.
Well,
Go ahead, ask your question.
so how? So when so you have 20x. How do you know what you have to do to that to make the vertex? Because
So
do you know
that's,
what I mean?
I do see what you're saying. So that's the basic case. So we have to remember a very simple fact that a lot of people kind of either, I don't know if they're just not shown or they've never seen it before, but it's the same thing that I've talked about it a few times. We've got to be careful. So if I have y squared equals 20x in this case, I can rewrite this to be in vertex form as y minus 0 squared equals 20x minus 0.
So if it's 20x, then you know that it's 0.
Right, so if you
That
get to something
the
that's like number
h.
11 where it's
Okay.
just y squared and just the x, there's no parentheses and stuff like that. So same thing will go on number 13. 13, the center
Okay.
or the vertex is going to be also at 0, 0.
Okay. That was my question.
Okay, you're fine. Okay, other questions? Who's actually done some of the homework?
I've only done 15 and 16.
Bruh, what are you doing with
I
yourself,
haven't
Brennan?
even finished 15.
Brisa, Abby, what are you people doing with yourselves?
I know. Listen, all these teachers are giving me homework. Like all this. Oh, they're annoying.
Bruh, you should have had most of this homework done before spring break. J-Dev,
Nuh-uh.
stop lying.
We didn't even finish 16
Look,
before spring break. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we
yes,
did.
we did.
And
We
Yeah, we
took
we
did.
a quiz on it.
and we had class all last week.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
but that
true.
didn't count.
That was time to
Yeah.
do homework and ask questions when I went back over everything.
You're
Bruh,
right.
don't tell
You're
me
right.
that didn't count. There's a reason I did it last week. Because I knew you'd be getting a lot of work this week and be, oh my god, overwhelmed. Oh, what do I do?
That's how I am. I know.
I know, that's why I
So,
did things the way I did them.
but we don't have to turn in the homework, right?
No, but ask J-Dev. J-Dev, if you don't
Okay.
do the homework, how are you going to do on the test?
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I'm not going to do lesson 15 because I understand it and I
And
already
that's
did the quiz. So,
J-Dev. And that's fine. Like, I'm not saying you have to do all the homework, especially now that you don't need to turn it in. But I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's not that we just assign this just for funsies. You need to do the practice. If you don't do the practice, just like that word problem. Like, was the word problem actually hard? No. Was understanding what they were asking the difficult part? Yes. But as soon as you realize, oh, how far apart are they? If I draw these two, what's the closest point? I definitely feel there is a disparity between the homeworks and the quizzes. I'm not going to lie. But there's less of a disparity between the homeworks and the tests. So fortunately, now that you guys have them as take-home quizzes, you can work on them and look at examples and try to make sure everything matches up. But I will say that I do feel the quizzes are definitely harder. Um, I don't know if she just didn't look at them or if she hasn't or did that on purpose. I don't know any of that. So I do agree that the quizzes are definitely harder. I told you that before too, so that's not changed. But fortunately now it's not a in-class timed thing, and you get to work on them a little bit at your leisure. But you definitely still need to be keeping caught up. There's a reason, like I said, I started last week. I knew teachers would be throwing stuff at you this week. You were supposed to have at least 15. Let's see, before spring. Nah, dude, before spring break we finished 17, 16. We started 7. I think we even finished 17 before spring break.
We did.
Yeah, so don't be trying to tell me we only did like 15 and 16. We finished 17 before spring break. That way when you came back, we only had 18 to do, and then we had like 2 days of review before the test on Friday. So you definitely should have had a lot more of this homework done than you already presently did. Like I said, I understand that they're giving you work, which is why I'm still planning like 2 days a lesson and things like that, and giving time for homework. But I want you guys to be successful. I don't want you to flounder, so make sure you're doing the work and asking questions. Don't just show up to class and don't do anything. I had to yell at some people yesterday for that. They weren't even watching the stream. They were just literally in Discord doing nothing, probably. That doesn't do you any good. I'm here to help, so take advantage of it. I could just put out the Gulf Coast videos and say, y'all have fun now. But I definitely don't want to do that to you guys because I think a lot of you would become screwed at that point. That's not what I want. I want you to be successful and have good experiences with math, not bad experiences like other people have already had, and some of you have already had. So I'm trying to fix some of that stuff. Except for JDev. JDev just sucks. Yes, life lessons from Odon. I do what I can. But honestly, showing up to class and not having any work done or not paying attention doesn't do you any good. Now, if you don't have your homework done, showing up, paying attention, and doing stuff is still helpful, don't get me wrong. But it'll be much more beneficial if you have the homework done, or at least attempt it so you know where you're struggling, and you can be like, hey, how do you do this problem? Or I did this, and you can send me pictures of it. Most of you have figured that out by now. Over Remind. If you send me stuff on Discord, I probably won't get it because this is not my main Discord account, so I won't see the notifications until like the next day. Alright, bro, JDev, you get 100 on this test, I'll leave you alone. You get anything less than 100? Game on, son. You should have set the bar a little lower, by the way. So any other questions? Class is almost over for today, but number 20 in lesson 18. Let me scroll to that one. Okay, sure, I'll do that real quick. That'll end the class probably by the time we get done. Alright, so 3y squared minus 6y. Da, 24x, 21. Okay, so before, because obviously we got to start putting this all together, how do I know what shape this is?
There's only one of them squared.
So that means it's a
word.
Parabola.
yes, Brandon, thank you. It's a word, as Harrison would say, or parabola. So I'm going to move all my x's over, leave my y's where they're at to match the form of a parabola for us. Equals 24x minus 21. The only problem with that is I can't factor the 3y squared minus 6y as it stands. There's a couple things that we can do. The easiest one, instead of factoring out a 3 and completing the square like that, I can actually divide everything by 3, because all these numbers are divisible by 3. So that'll make this one a lot easier. 8x minus 7. So that's something nice that we can do that'll help us out. Then complete the square on the left-hand side, so I get y squared minus 2y. Half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1, is equal to 8x minus 7 plus 1. These numbers do not come out. Is this going to be fractions? Ugh, I hate when they do things like this. What number was this? 20. Or did I do my math wrong? Oh, I did. Nobody caught that. Find my mistake.
It's minus.
Can't believe
It's
I did
minus 6y, not 2y.
that. I divided
Wait.
everything by 3.
It's plus 21.
Yes. When I moved the 21 over, I did minus on accident. Otherwise, this problem would have been very nasty numbers. So be careful. Don't make the same mistake I make. Obviously, you can. As soon as, like I said, as soon as I started noticing this was not going to be a nice, easy factor problem, it would have created some really ugly fractions. I figured something was up, so I went back to check my work. So now we get what? Y minus 1 squared equals 8x plus 8. So left-hand side is how I want it. What do I need to do to the right-hand side?
What was the question?
My left-hand side is what I need it to look like for a parabola. Is my right-hand side good?
No.
Then what do I need to do, Miss Maddie?
Factor out the 8.
Right, just factor the 8 out. And we get y minus 1 squared 8 x plus 1. And there is our equation in standard form. And they want us to label all the different pieces. So we should be able to start labeling everything at this point. So what is my vertex?
Negative 1, 1.
Very good. Be very careful. Make sure you don't fall into the trap of putting the left one first and the right one second. X goes first, Y goes second. So very good. What is my p-value?
2.
Very good. Remember, so we get 8p equals, 4p equals 8, so p equals 2. Then what is the focus? How do we find our focus?
Wouldn't it be negative 1, 3?
Okay, so why negative 1, 3?
Because
I will
P.
say, but why is it negative 1, 3? Why'd you go up 2?
Because
It looks up.
it's. Yeah, because y is squared.
So if y is squared, which way does the parabola go?
Left or right.
If y is
No,
squared,
I
it
don't
goes
know.
left or right. Parabolas are the only ones that are backwards in that aspect. Remember, an easy way to remember this, because you know what this looks like. What does y equals x squared look like?
Up or down?
So, specifically, what does y equals x squared look like?
Up.
It's up.
Like
This is
smiley
an
face.
upwards facing parabola. So y equals negative x squared then is down. So that means if x is squared, it's up or down. So if y is squared, then it has to be left or right. This is the only one of these in this section that is backwards on that aspect. You got to be careful. So this will open to the right. So this is my negative 1, 1. So now where is the vertex in relation to my parabola? To my vertex. Where is the focus in relation to the vertex?
1, 1. Oh, no, I don't know.
Okay, answer the question I'm asking. Where is the focus in relation to my vertex?
It's 2 units to the right.
So it's 2 units to the right. So that means I'm going to add 2 to my x value. So it is 1, 1.
Oh, so I was right.
You were. Where is the directrix in relation to my vertex?
To the left of it.
To the left. How far to the left?
Y equals negative 3.
Okay, so careful. Only answer the questions I'm asking, guys.
You're right, I'm sorry.
So, where is the directrix located?
2 over.
Over is not a direction, Harrison.
Y equals negative 3.
Brisa, stop answering questions I'm not asking. Thank you,
Well,
Abby.
you just asked that.
No, I said where is it located? I didn't say what is the equation. It is located
Okay, located.
2 units to the left of my.
Well, that's what
Hold
Harrison
on.
said. You said he was wrong.
No, he said over. He didn't say left. Over's
Okay,
not
I
a
didn't
direction.
specify because I'm a big dumb.
It's okay, buddy. We would normally say over in general speak. However, it's not good enough. So that's why I always say specify what does over mean. So 2 units to the left. What kind of line is the focus, or sorry, the directrix in this case?
Vertical.
It's a vertical line. What does the equation of a vertical line look like? Oh, Miss Abby got it in chat. Good job, Miss Abby. It is x equals. And our x value is, if I go 2 left from -1, is x equals -3. So do not forget vertical lines are x equals, horizontal lines are y equals. Okay.
Is that all you need to find?
Let's see, I'm trying to see, looking at the question, see what else they want us to find. It looks like they want us to find the focal chord endpoints as well. Find the focus endpoints. Okay, so the endpoints of the lattice rectum, I think that was, I don't remember, I think I mentioned that before, I think I said I needed to go over it, I almost forgot. So let me draw a little bigger. So focus is at 1, 1, this is your vertex. So on your parabola, you have a line that goes through your foci, or focus, because there's only one, focus that connects your parabola from one side to the other. On a left and right, obviously it's a vertical line. On the up and down, it would be a horizontal line. But it's literally just connects your parabola and goes through that. This is called your lattice rectum. Okay. If they want to find the end points of that, in other words, they want you to find the point that's on the parabola up here and down here. Well, very fortunately for us, we have this great relationship in that the distance across that is 4p. That is where that 4p value comes from that we use in the equation. That's one of the ways we use the 4p. So what is our 4p value in this problem?
8.
8. So if I start at my focus and I go up, how far do I need to go up?
8.
Careful. The whole thing is 8. So how far do I go up?
Oh, so you would go up 4?
So I'll go up 4, and then for the other one I would go down 4. So your endpoints.
1, 5.
If I go up 4, will be -1, 5. And if I go down 4, it'll be -1, -3.
Oh, you didn't write the negative on the bigger drawing.
Oh, because it's not negative. Because it's the focus, not the. I looked at the vertex. It's the focus. My bad. So you're correct. It's not negative. Sorry. Thank you for catching that. Okay, so that's the last thing that I forgot to go over when I did the lesson. So I apologize. Okay. All right. So just make sure you write that last part down. I do apologize. I forgot to go over that when I did the lesson. Okay, so any questions? All right, then make sure you try to do some homework tonight so tomorrow you can ask me questions.